So the question, do we really need cow's milk for calcium? You know, we are taught from the time we're very young that milk builds strong bones. And there is no question that cow's milk is a very rich source of calcium. You get about 300 milligrams of calcium per cup of cow's milk. Interestingly, you get about 600 milligrams from a cup of moose milk or a cup of deer milk. It doesn't make them essential foods for humans. So just because cow's milk, you see, every species produces a milk to support the growth of their offsprings. And if they're large animals with big bones, of course their milk's going to be very rich in calcium. You need a lot for building bones. And so it doesn't, you know, we're not saying cow's milk isn't a rich source. Of course it is, but it's not an essential source of it's not an essential food for humans any more than moose or deer milk, as I said. But what you need to know is during the Paleolithic period, for millennia, human beings seemed to amble along reasonably well without a single drop of milk. They were consuming between 1,000 and 2,000 milligrams of calcium a day. And they were getting most of it from leafy greens, which they ate constantly. And so we can too. It's just, you know, to get enough calcium from kale, you'd need to eat 11 cups. And so not everybody would eat 11 cups of kale. So we need to be looking at what are all the sources. And so you can get calcium from low oxalate leafy greens. So you get a little bit from high oxalate greens, but you only absorb about 5%. So if you look on a chart and you see, you know, 200 and whatever milligrams of calcium in spinach, you're only getting about 5% of that. So spinach is not a good source of calcium, nor is Swiss chard, nor are beet greens. These very high oxalate greens are not reliable calcium sources because you can't absorb this stuff. It's bound to oxalates. Whereas the low oxalate greens, like the kale and the Chinese greens and the broccoli and all of those greens, the turnip greens and so forth, you can absorb 40 to 70% of the calcium. Now we absorb about 32% of the calcium from cow's milk. Some would say 34, somewhere in there. You absorb about the same amount from tofu. You absorb just a little bit less from soy milk. From beans, you absorb, you know, maybe 25%. So we absorb, you know, varying amounts from different plant foods, but generally you can get enough when you include a variety of those foods eaten throughout the course of the day. And for people that have a really hard time getting up to the sort of 1,000 or, you know, the RDA is 1,000 milligrams up to the age of 50 for women and 70 for men. After 50 for women, after 70 for men, it's 1,200. And so for that age category, to meet those RDAs, some people, what they do is add a cup or two of a non-dairy milk that's fortified. And so that's an option of boosting your intake quite easily. So 1 cup has the exact same amount of calcium as a cup of cow's milk, about 300 milligrams. And so that's an option for people that just want to boost their intake a little bit. But it is absolutely possible to get enough without doing that. But you do need to be conscious about your choices. So for example, if you're eating fruit, oranges, dried figs are better calcium choices than would be an apple or, you know, some other dried fruit. So if you're looking at, you know, with the calcium-rich foods within each group, the legumes, and then within the nuts and seeds, the more calcium-rich choices would be almonds or sesame seeds. And so it's, you know, just choosing carefully within each food group, and you can do it. Oh, and I have to say, now that we're talking about calcium, I like to tell my little story because we have a lot of osteoporosis in my family. My mom developed osteoporosis by the time she was 50. And so when I was nearing 50, I thought, you know, I wonder if I should see where I stand. And my doctor said, absolutely, we need to do a complete, you know, the gold standard bone density, complete DEXA scan or whatever. And so he said, you've been vegan for many years. You don't, you know, you're not drinking milk. You've got the family history. You're small, Caucasian female. You're at very high risk. And when my results came back, I can still remember his face when he opened my chart to give me the results. And his jaw dropped, and he went, you know, he couldn't believe it. He said, I'm absolutely stunned. your bone density is 2.5 standard deviations above norm for your age. And it's, you know, for your, I think it was for my femur, and 2 standard deviations above norm for my age, for my spine. And he said, that's almost unheard of. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And the moral of that story is even as a vegan, you can have exceptional bone health if you're conscious about, I'm conscious about, and bone health isn't just about calcium, by the way. It's about vitamin C and vitamin K, and it's about vitamin E, and it's about essential fatty acids and many other nutrients, magnesium and potassium, and all of these things play a role in building strong. Even protein. We need to get enough protein to build the bone matrix. All of that matters. But what may matter even more than all of that is exercise, weight-bearing exercise. And I've been an exercise enthusiast since I was a teenager. I do exercise pretty much every day unless I'm really sick or on the plane somewhere, but even if I'm traveling. So I'm you know, taking a flight somewhere, I don't use the escalators, I use the stairs, and I try to walk as much as I can within the airport. And so there are ways that you can kind of build exercise into your day. When I'm at hotels, I walk the stairs instead of taking the elevators as much as possible. So I think there are ways of doing that, and I really think that's what has helped my bones to be what they are. And so I'm grateful for that, but just know that you can do it. Being vegan doesn't mean that you'll be sacrificing your bones.